Well, good afternoon, guys. We've got quite a crowd today and excited to have a pretty interesting conversation. Obviously, Bassmaster Elite Series tournament coming to Neely Henry. Let's take a quick look at what we got to look forward to, and then we'll jump into conversation. So stick around and please hit that share button.
The Bassmaster Elite Series is coming to Gadsden. Watch the Elite Series pros weigh in their catch from Neely Henry Lake and explore the Weekend Outdoors Expo, where you can purchase official Bassmaster gear, check out B.A.S.S. sponsored booths, and win prizes. Plus, local merchant booths, food and beverage vendors, and activities for the kids, too. Fun for the whole family, and it's free. Follow the Whataburger Bassmaster Elite at Neely Henry Lake May 6th through the 9th on Bassmaster.com, and join us outside at the Weekend Expo May 8th and 9th at the City Boat Launch at Coosa Landing. See Bassmaster.com for details.
All right. Well, can you turn your volume down, Hugh? Yeah. He's so excited to watch himself.
I had the phone turned off, but I forgot to turn off the volume.
Well, so guys, just so you know, we are live on Bucks Island. Welcome to the crowd from Greater Gadsden Area Tourism, all our friends in Etowah County, and Fish Neely Henry. I'm gonna mostly shut up and sit here and try to click through and read the comments and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna turn things over to Dano because well, he's the guy that knows stuff about fishing. So why don't you introduce our guests, and you've played a little role in what's coming to town. So I'm excited to hear this conversation about the Bassmaster Elite Series coming to Neely Henry next week.
Yep, May 5th. They will be May 6th through the 9th. But first of all, folks, this is Hugh Stump, our tourism director for here Greater Gadsden Area Tourism, and the manager of FishNeelyHenryLake.com page and website. And then, of course, we've got Bruce Aiken, the CEO of B.A.S.S. LLC. Bruce is a highly respected individual in the fishing industry and many other industries, someone who is intimately involved into all facets of what happens when an event comes to a town like Neely Henry and or Gadsden, and with a lake like Neely Henry. And Bruce, first of all, thanks for joining us. You, thanks for joining us as well.
Happy to be here.
First, I guess let's kind of, I do have to say I kind of badgered people a little bit. Moving here in 2014, Alabama as a whole, I came from California, and tourism was pretty easy in California, it seemed. You know, they put commercials of Disney and Hollywood up, and everybody kind of showed up. And here, tourism revolves around so many different things. And I got to meet Hugh and know how much he cared about tournament fishing. And so I kind of badgered a few people at Bass about coming to see what we had at Neely Henry with Coosa Landing and everything. And I think, Bruce, I was at a press conference for announcing the 19 Classic at Gunnersville, or the 20 Classic at Gunnersville, and I just kind of said, hey, Mr. Aiken, I think I'd like to see you guys come up and take a look at what we have.
Yeah, it was around that time. I lose track of time these days, the older I get. And I muted there for a little while because we're having a fire alarm here, it sounds like. So if some smoke starts coming up under my door, I may have to evacuate. But right now, hopefully it's just a test there. But yeah, you know, we have had the good fortune of having the Open up there last fall, kind of a warm up. But the real deal is this Elite coming next week. And, we just came off of a tournament down in Texas that was record breaking in many ways. I think more than 15 million minutes watched on live this last weekend. And that doesn't count FS1. Fox Sports were on this year now. And I think actually we're going to have extended coverage next week in Gadsden. We usually do 3 hours on Saturday, 3 hours on Sunday on television, on linear. And I think we're doing maybe 4 hours a day next weekend. So, additional coverage for us and exposure for you guys as well. So we're really looking forward to it.
Well, Hugh, what was it? I think about 3 or 4 years ago, we were having a conversation, at lunch one day. You sponsor Elite Series Pro Matt Taharan with the Fish Neely Henry Lake in Gadsden. Makes sense. It's his home lake. But we were having a discussion, and there was a study done that said so much income or revenue generated by fishing in Alabama, and you wanted to know how to kind of bring some more of that here. And this is kind of a byproduct of that. What is it that, and you have more ties to fishing with, the stuff you do, Alabama Bass Trail and being on the board there and everything. But what is it about bringing an event like a Bassmaster event, starting with the Open and here, that is attractive to a place like Gadsden?
Well, the two tournaments, the Elite and the Central Open, and an Open, in our case, it was a Central Open, even though we're in the Southeast, I think, but we kind of moved those around a little bit, pandemic stuff. They're kind of two different tournaments. And for us as a city, they do two different things. Your Opens, for example, brought anglers in from all over the country that have, and many of them have never fished the Coosa Chain or Neely Henry before. So we were getting new anglers. Secondary, since they hadn't fished and there's no off limits, they were in town a week to 10 days ahead of time, and all you've got to do is go drive by the hotel, and especially up the drive, up and down the drive, and look at the boats in the parking lot. And this is not like a Friday night local tournament, where you got a guy staying from Wetumpka or something. These are people from California, and Ohio, and Idaho, Texas, and North Carolina, and they're here for so many days. So you're getting that heads in beds tourism tax revenue, and you're also getting the ancillary, food and gas and tackle and all that. But you don't get any TV out of that. You don't get any extended internet out of that. So you only get the user generated, or what we generate as far as internet for people to learn about, or what's in the newspaper. Now with a Bassmaster Elite, you're just ramping it up a whole nother notch. You heard Bruce just say that they had 15 million minutes of viewing of the tournament last week in Texas. I couldn't even put a price tag on that. I'm sure you guys could, Bruce, but I mean, that's huge. And then you got
we could, but you wouldn't want us to.
Exactly.
You wouldn't want us to.
Right. And then you get your FS1 television live experience. Not 6 months down the road. It's going to be as it's happening. So there's your image building of Coosa Landing as a facility, Gadsden as a place, in all of our Coosa River communities, Rainbow City, Southside, Glencoe, Oaks Bluff. You also get the heads and beds from the staff. I think they've got 278 hotel rooms booked. Nights booked. I mean, that's just from staff.
Don't say 278 because I think Bruce would choke right there.
Sorry. They've got 28 rooms booked.
That's good. Yeah.
And they live in Birmingham. No, it's not all staff. It's, and that was another thing.
Yeah.
Once Bass relocated back to Birmingham from Orlando, we felt like, God, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. We need to start knocking on doors. And like Dano said a minute ago, he says, he kind of jabbering at people. And it's like squeaky wheels are the ones that get the grease sometimes, but sometimes being nice and saying, hey, how are you? Can we invite you down to take a look at our fishery? Yeah. I know when Eric Lopez, who's the tournament director, he came in with Trip Weldon, and about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3, did a site visit, had lunch and everything, and Trip had said, man, I used to fish here when we fished out the other side of the other side of the street. I mean, the other side of the river, the old ramp. And he hadn't been to Gadsden since then. So it was really eye-opening, and it really started a serious relationship.
Mm-hmm. And Trip retired this year. Yeah. I don't know if you knew, but he's planning to come the first day for the weigh-in. So he came back really excited. I remember when he and Eric went up, and I wasn't able to go that day, and they came back and said, "This is a great facility, and just what we need." And that's what we look at is facilities. Do we have enough parking? Do we have enough ramps? To put on a top professional tournament like we have, and we've got 100 anglers that have to get in very early in the morning, and then they can get out. And you talked about the Open. That was, I think, 170 or 180 boats there, 2 to a boat. So, you really fill up rooms fast then. But yeah, Dan's been he's a good matchmaker. So he had whispered in our ear a little bit and had us had Hugh call, or we called him, and it's just been great, since then, having the Open and that. And I don't know, we've got college, high school, all kind of tournaments that we can talk about having, but this was the biggie next week. So
So Bruce,
we'll keep it rolling.
When you guys, you've got long-term relationships with a lot of municipalities and lakes that you guys have developed over the years. Outside of facilities, outside of obviously the financial contributions and everything that come from a place, what is it? And I can go to Neil Paul at Hartwell and the people at Lake Fork and some of the other venues that you guys have gone to. What makes a Bassmaster venue in your mind?
It really is the venue. We've got to have all the basics that we talked about, the room for the expo, plenty of parking and things like that, but really partnership with the host community is what makes it over the top. As you know, we probably that we broke a record for elite attendance this year in Orange, Texas. Of course, there's a lot of pent up demand, people wanting to get out, but we had 40,100, I think, people, which broke a previous record they had set. And then Waddington, New York, a town of 1,000 people, broke and had the record a few years. So it's really that partnership, putting on festivals, putting on, having local, vendors and all there as well. And just the community welcoming you. You would hear that a lot at the Sabine River, Orange, Texas. You'd hear it on stage last weekend at Lake Fork. It's just the way the community and fishing communities welcome all the anglers and are so hospitable to them. And even when they're stopping to get gas or checking into the hotel or the campground, that makes all the difference in the world as well. And it doesn't hurt to have good high-speed internet connection either. So all this takes a pretty good bandwidth, to do.
I know that we've all been in discussions, Bucks Island, Hugh, and some of the city parks department, as well as a local grocery store. I know that we're planning on handing out breakfasts in the morning to the anglers and to the marshals, and it's that kind of stuff. I personally have been fortunate that I was a vice president of the California Bass Nation the first time that the Elite Series came through in 2007. And we were there to help launch boats and, handed out drinks in the mornings and stuff like that. And so I saw the response of the anglers to that kind of stuff. So having some of that experience in the past, I know that it means a lot. So, we're adopting some of those things that we've seen. But ultimately, so on the water, obviously we're most likely not going to see 112 pounds win a tournament and probably not see a 42-pound limit. But there's a story made at every event. And, Sabine River draws that kind of people, and it takes 11 pounds a day to win a tournament. We obviously think Neely Henry's going to show bigger weights than that. But what kind of stories do you look forward to out of each of these events?
I think, a lot of the story is the different ways that the anglers approach the lake and presentations and baits they're using and techniques. I think you mentioned Sabine River, not a lot of weight, but we had people making 2-hour runs, not knowing whether they're going to have enough gas to get back. And the one that won it, I think, came back with a half-gallon gas in his boat, Jason Christie. And then the second place finisher went 100 miles the other way to fish. And then people stayed local. And typically it had been won locally. And, it was after cold fronts and storms and things like that. But I think just, part of it is just showcasing the beauty of the area. And I grew up in North Alabama and up on Lake Gunnersville and Scottsboro. And I'm, very familiar with the beauty around Gaston. Is the same kind of thing that you've got there, that we've got up there. And even we proved that with Sabine. There was a great story there. Even when the 5 fish limit was about the size of one bass, Lake Fork. So you don't have that everywhere. And, too, we were doing catch, weigh, release there. So people knew the score. People will need to come to the weigh-in in Gaston to, see the anglers and see what their weights were and see those, fish that are pulled out of the bag. But, we think it's going to be a great fish, at a good time of the year too. We talked a lot about that. I think when we were scheduling this, is we want to come to fishery at the right time as well, and we think we're hitting that.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a good turnout from fish. They're going to be here. There'll be a lot of fish. That's what Neely Henry's good for. A lot of fish.
Well, and it's
good.
The winter and the weather that we've had, it's kind of pushed some of the spawn off. So there's still been some late spawns, as we saw with Lake Fork, because I am a follower of the sport and I did pay attention. But I think we're still going to have some mix of things, pre-spawn, post-spawn, but Neely Henry performs well under both. I know this will make the most impact on Hugh, being the tourism director, but what kind of overall impact have you guys seen from an Elite Series event? I know we could talk classics and some of those majors, but what kind of average type economic impact type can we see for a city like Gadsden out of an Elite Series event?
Yeah, I think, it can range depending on attendance, obviously people that come in, but anywhere from probably $3 to $6 million, 3 probably on the low end to 6. And that's just the week of the tournament. And, when they come into practice, you mentioned the opens, they come into practice that week. The elites came in before the off limits period to practice too. So, what probably wasn't quite as dense, them being there at the same time. But I guarantee you they've been there to pre-practice before the 28 day off limits that we put on 28 days before practice starts for the tournament. So before that, they were probably up there practicing and all. So, but I think we are going to have great fish, a lot of fish, and a lot of locals too. We've got I think 12 Elite Series pros from Alabama now, and probably half of them are within 50 or 60 miles of the fishery. So you got the Canterbury's, and you mentioned Matt Herron. We know he knows the lake very well. He was a real proponent of having this tournament, by the way. But Steve Kennedy and Scott won Angler of the Year 2 years ago in 2019, and so we're looking forward to them. Some new ones this year. Justin Atkins from the Florence area. He didn't do well on his home lake of Pickwick, so I'm sure he wants to get revenge on Matt and Scott's lake this week. But Justin Hamner, he's new to the elites this year. Strassner, he's leading Rookie of the Year right now. So a lot of hammers in Alabama. So 12 out of 99 or 100 that we've got.
Well, and it's funny, home field. People talk home field advantage. I know it's worked out sometimes, but having followed this sport for so long, I remember an Elite Series event, 2015. Skeet Reese won that tournament, but I remember the chatter beforehand. All of the guys from the Gunnersville area kept talking about, I'm going to win it here. That's going to be done here. It's going to be, it should be. I'm going to, and all but one of those guys missed the cut. And when you put that kind of stuff in your head, it's hard to get it out of it. So it's always an interesting story to see what's going to happen when someone from the area who grew up fishing the lake comes. Yeah. That's why it's usually won by somebody other.
That's right. Well, Swindles and Gunnersville, and you remember the 14 Classic. He came up short first day. I think may have had one fish or maybe none, but it just shows that was on Gunnersville. Against Gerald's a great fisherman, but sometimes you also have that pressure. I mean that was part of Lee Livesey's win this week. He guides on Lake Fork, But the last couple of times we've been there, he hasn't even made the cut. So he was really, ready to get that monkey off of his back.
Yeah, a little bit too much history in your brain, and
Mhm.
sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
But Hugh, do you have any other questions for Bruce before we let him go off and take care of a lot more important things?
What was more important than promoting the Bassmaster Whataburger
Exactly.
Elite on Neely Henry Lake, May 6th through 9th, 2021. But I wanted to.
Nice plug.
I had lunch with.
If you missed the commercial.
If you missed the commercial. I had lunch today with an angler up at Silver Lakes Country Club, part of the Robert Trent Jones Trail. And he mentioned, oh, well, we've been having Bassmaster Elite tournaments on this lake forever. I said, no, you haven't. Never had one before ever. He goes, no, we did back in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
No such thing as the Elite Series then.
Right. And I get to think that. And then, he says, well, did they have $100,000 first place check? And he's like, nope. I'm like, okay. So we've never had a tournament of this magnitude on this lake.
Yeah.
I think everybody.
And the total purse is about around 700,000. So it's more than, almost as much as the classic. The classic's $1 million. So first prize is 300. So 100,000 is not a bad day of work. To get that. So, but it's we are the Elites are the premier, professional league, and the one that people follow and come out to see these guys. There'll be people, and the pros are really good about getting close to the people, doing autographs, and being accessible. And that's another great thing about the sport, I think, is the friendships. I mean, even the fellow competitors are helping each other. I heard Chris Aldane, who now lives in Fort Payne, talking about how, Lee Livesey took him around the lake to show him how to navigate around Lake Fork. The guys room together, they, help each other. Somebody's broken down or out of gas or whatever it is, they'll stop and, cut into their fishing day to help. So
Pull a barb out of somebody's hand.
Yeah, take a hook out of somebody's hand.
Like Matt did the other day.
Well, and then
I don't know if you saw that, but Matt Herring clipped a hook out of I guess Brandon Card.
Yep.
Is his, and one of our staffers here had already tried to do the old braid trick, but
didn't work.
he probably should have gotten over in the same boat with him too. He was trying to do it from one boat to the other too.
Yeah, but you also have to hold the hand finger still in order for that one to work, because the finger wants to snap. But you talk about the accessibility of the anglers. Having you guys here next week has afforded Bucks Island to do leverage more. That we're doing a Fish Fest event on May 1st, which is something we've tried to do last year. We couldn't do it because of COVID and the pandemic and the restrictions that put on us. But there's more availability to the anglers, and they're readily available because they know they're promoting their sponsors, they know they're promoting themselves as well as their league, and so we're going to have 10 to 15 of those anglers show up at Fish Fest on May 1st, and that's going to be a great chance for the fans there. And they're so accessible. They will stand there and talk to anybody, sign whatever autographs, pictures. That's what they're there for. It's different than you see from a lot of other professional sports where, set times, pay for the autographs, those kinds of things. These guys are a lot more accessible, and that always makes it really nice.
Was that 2 years ago you had the event up there, Dan, when they were coming in? Was that for the Classic or Gunnersville?
No, it was Gunnersville. It was that Father's Day weekend.
Elite.
Yeah, 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when you came up, and Dave Precht came with you. He's now
That's
retired
neat.
as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yes, we have these opportunities, and it's obviously the schedule, part of the training that the organization has put into the guys to be accessible, but also the anglers' willingness to be accessible to the fans, and that's something that is appreciated by not only our dealership, myself as a media person in the industry, but also from our city and our community.
Also, I think I don't remember if I mentioned, but Whataburger is the title sponsor too, and they're attaching to that because they're getting into the Gaston market. Now, I don't know if they've opened that yet or about to, but that's why they wanted to tie in to this elite event, was because of them going into your market. So they'll be the title sponsor of the event.
I think Bruce just broke some news.
We're getting a Whataburger? Did you know that, Hugh?
Yeah.
If I did, I couldn't tell you.
Well, somewhere. Yeah.
All I know is there better be a Whataburger food truck there.
Yeah.
I missed Whataburger from my time in Texas.
Yeah.
Coupons.
Yeah.
Coupons are good.
Yeah.
Coupons are good.
Well, I've got one last question for you, Bruce. I'm fairly new to the whole fishing sport. I didn't realize that the high school anglers is such a big thing, and just the growth of the sport. What do you guys from Bass? I mean, do you see it slowing down at all? Do you see an exponential increase from all aspects of growing? I know you guys started the kayak series last year. I'm assuming the answer is yes. Of course, the forecast is good, but I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on where the sport's going.
Yeah, we really think that we're tapping in and have a lot of momentum going. We did start kayak series last year because we saw the need there, and the people that were getting into that, and it reaches a new audience as well. And then we're doing a Redfish Cup championship this year down in Texas. So we're venturing into redfish some. Our TV production company, JM, that we own, did a Redfish Cup series years ago, and Yamaha and Skeeter were interested in sort of bringing that back. So we're doing that this fall. But two, the increase in participation in fishing gives us a lot of hope for the future. We realize that a lot of people, took it on during the pandemic as an outdoor activity, but we think a lot of people will adopt this lifestyle and do more and more of it as the world changes, and even as we go back to more normalcy. We think people have been introduced to it now, and fishing and boating, and I'm sure you're seeing the same thing. I was at my lake place at Lake Martin this past weekend, and it's unbelievable. This time of year, usually there's not much boat traffic, many people out there, many people out fishing, and it was pretty packed. And spring break, it was very hard. I know boat ramps, parking. If you built parking for the future, you've already filled it up, I imagine. So,
Bruce, I know a lake that's a little quieter than Martin.
Yeah.
If you want to relocate.
Yeah. Might just have to do that. Getting pretty tempting to sell that thing. Yeah. So,
it's a really good market too right now. I'll tell you. You just don't want to build after you sell.
That's right. Yeah, you want to existing. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I've got a few real estate connections up that way. By I think I told you my son-in-law, Andrew Bone, grew up there in Gaston, Rainbow City area, and so he's in Birmingham. He and my daughter, and expecting my 7th grandchild with them in August. But anyway, he's from up that way as well.
So you need a bigger place.
Yeah. So I could probably tell him to maybe get a place up there.
He was a salesman.
Well, he's got to stay in a couple hotel rooms to come check out the houses, right? That's the angle Hugh's playing.
Sure.
Yeah. You were mentioning the hotels and things too, and Palatka, St. John's River, our first elite tournament this year. They said that that all the hotels were full, and it's the first time they've been full since we were there last year. Of course, the pandemic hit after we were there in February each year, and they were just tickled to death that that things were getting back, and really a big need for the hotels to make up for some lost ground, and the restaurants and other things there. So hopefully be a little boost to that next week as well.
Well, I know we look forward to it, and Bruce's busy schedule, I know. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'll see y'all Thursday.
Sounds good.
See you
Next
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
See you, Bruce.
Bye, Bruce.
All right. Well, what else do we have to cover for this event coming in?
Well, let's do a couple things. Dano, why don't you talk to him for a minute about the tournament format, the way it's fished, why it's fished the way it is, any differences between that and a local tournament that you might normally see on a lake, even a bass trail tournament, or and I'm not trying to equate bass trail with a local tournament, because the Alabama Bass Trail is very near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely.
But it's a one-day tournament.
Yeah.
And the Elite is a 4-day tournament. But talk about that format, because it's a little bit different.
Okay, so first of all, it's an individual tournament. The anglers will have a marshal in there, and there's probably marshal opportunities available. If you wanted to watch these guys fish, be a marshal, be able to take part in updating Bass Track, and even photos on sent to Bassmaster.com. The marshals take part in all that stuff.
So they're on the boat with the angler.
Yes.
Do they have to have any special qualifications?
No, Bass will teach them what they need to do as far as running the stuff. They'll give them their basic breakdowns of rules, who they get paired with. If you sign up to be a marshal, you're guaranteed at least 2 days, day 1 and day 2, because you're at a full field. And
then you can go to Bassmaster.com, and I think there's a link to go to the tournament section, and then pick the specific tournament. Like for this one, you'd pick Neely Henry, and I think there's become a marshal button, and you can click there, and you'll work your way into Bass to get it for that. Now, and I talked to Eric about a week ago. I think he said they were pretty close to being full.
That's good.
But if you really are interested, because you get to be in the boat for 8 hours with a pro angler. Now you got to keep your mouth shut, pretty much, right?
Yeah, you can't tell the guys, hey, I caught one here, I caught one there. You can't do any of that kind of stuff. But no, the anglers are going to talk to you. There's a few of them that may be more locked in, quiet, don't really say much other than, hey, sit down, I'm going to move or whatever. But a lot of them end up, I've seen friendships developed out of this stuff over the years. There's marshals that actually follow the trail around somewhat, if not all. But so there's that. So the pro angler fishes by himself in the boat all day. He can catch as many fish as he wants to, but only 5 of them count. He can cull. So once he gets a 5-fish limit, if he catches a fish that's bigger than his smallest one, he culls that fish out as long as it's alive. There's a penalty for dead fish. It'll be a 12-inch minimum. After day 2, they will cut the field to, I think it's 49 now. Unfortunate circumstances. I've had an angler drop out of the Elite Series this year. Some family situations, is my understanding, with health back home with his parents. So they cut to 49. That's the paycheck range. So anybody that fishes on Saturday, day 3, will be getting a paycheck.
What's the lowest paycheck?
I think it spills down a little bit further into like the 75 range. There might be like $2,500, but I think it's a $10,000 paycheck if you get a paycheck on Saturday. I'm pretty sure is what it is, minimum. Now, to be fair, they have $5,300, $5,500 entry fees for each tournament, and there's going to be another anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 in expenses per tournament. So it's a business. These guys are putting $7,500, $8,000 in. It's a percentage. You're getting a 20-25% return on your investment when you do cash a check.
And these guys are all full-time anglers. They don't work day jobs.
No, some of them do.
Pretty much.
I know Ed Logren. He's a missile baits wrap guy, Bass Cat Pro. He's actually an attorney. Kelly J from down Dadeville area. He owns his own business. Dale Hightower.
It seems like a lot of them that do have other stuff going on, that they're related to the fishing industry, like John Cruz and Missile. And
John Cruz owns Missile Baits, yes.
So,
or they give a lifestyle where they don't have to be behind a counter, watching a store.
There's a few of them.
Yeah, but not many.
Bruce mentioned Justin Hammer, who became a customer of Bucks Island. He's out of Tuscaloosa. He owns a landscaping company and works in a concrete company with his dad, I believe. So there are some that have full-time jobs. Some of them guide on the side. There's a certain number of people, Matt Herron, Mark Menendez, that this is their occupation. Scott Canterbury, Wes Logan from our area.
Although last year I think he built some cabinets with the pandemic going on. But
he found some stuff to do.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen and come to respect out of getting to know this industry is, I mean, the work ethic of a lot of these guys. I mean, you don't get to this level and don't, I mean, they work, whether they're working full-time fishing or they're working to make it so that they can work at full-time fishing, I mean, they're those guys really put the,
when you stop and think about the expense that I just discussed, and you're going to get cut to 49 on day after day 2. Then you're going to get cut to top 10 on day 3. On day 4, that's the championship round. The guy, one of those guys is holding up a $10,000 or $100,000 paycheck. The work on the water is tireless. They're on the water. Most of those guys from Monday, Tuesday, they're going to be on the water from daylight to dark. And then as much time as they can give, depending on whether they have a registration meeting or not. Some of them will just go from the lake to the registration meeting after practicing all day, take their boat to the venue, and if that's the way it goes. But they work as hard off the water as they do on. Some of those guys are coming in, like I said, for our Fish Fest.
Right.
Some of those guys are coming in 2 days early to be there because they're promoting their sponsors as well as themselves.
And they can't fish that day, can they?
No, they can't fish Sunday either.
Right. So they're giving up their time to come in. And
a lot of them are. Some of their contracts require certain days from their sponsors that they have to work, and by working one of these, they get to check off one of those days. Some of them are just doing them out of the John's Missile Baits, and
right.
he's also a friend of Bucks Island.
Goodwill.
Yeah. Matt and Scott and Wes, they wear the Bucks Island logo. Brian Latimer will be there. He's not an Elite Series fisherman, but they wear the Bucks Island logo, so they're there to support that sponsorship, but also all of their other companies.
Right.
So the work ethic, as you bring up, it's tireless.
Right.
But bottom line, 5 fish limit per day. Heaviest weight after 4
they'll
days.
bring those to the stage. So the crowd will be out there. There'll be an MC, Dave Mercer, very animated guy, very upbeat, very knowledgeable about who his fishermen are, their past. He's kind of bringing things on, making it move, and they come across the stage and they do the weigh-in right there.
A lot of moving pieces to a Bassmaster event too. When you have a weigh-in of that type, so backstage there'll be full tents backstage in the backstage area that have tanks. The anglers will bring their fish up from their boats in a weigh bag that's sealed. It holds water. Inside of that is a mesh bag that they actually put them into. The mesh bag comes out, they check the fish, they move them from tank to aerated and oxygenated tank to tank to tank until they go up on the stage. The fish spend seconds out of the water at any one time. That's about it. And then Bass has their own live release boats. They'll bring 2 of them, and as they fill one up, they'll go dump, and they start filling up the other one. And if need be, based on the size of the fish and the numbers of fish that are caught, then if they need to make other runs, I mean, I've seen those boats run at Clear Lake, and Falcon was even, and I wasn't at that event, but Falcon was even, those boats ran. You got so many gallons in each tank, and you can only put so many, quote, pounds of fish in there. And when at an event like Lake Fork, if they were bringing them there, they'd have to run them 5 times each, kind of thing. But so I would anticipate that you'll see each boat go out once at a Neely Henry event. But the care of the resource at these major tournaments, and Bass is over 97, 98% release rate for live release fish. You're going to have some mortality, but they do everything they can to care for the fish. The fishermen are well trained. because there's a penalty for a dead fish. So they really want to care for their resource, because a half a pound penalty or a quarter pound penalty takes away from your potential to cash a paycheck. So the care for the fish is huge. And it's a neat show. There's volunteers that they've sourced from the Bass Nation that'll help with the running of the bags. It's an amazing working machine to watch one of these major tournaments go on.
So the way that this is going to work in Gadsden is that we'll close Coosa Landing to parking that from Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Well, actually, probably Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Big Bass stage, part of the Big Bass, Big Stage, Big Dreams tagline will go in Coosa Landing up by the bait shop, with the stage part facing out towards the Dollar General. So in other words, if you're on stage as an angler, you'll be waving at the crowd, which will be in front of you. The crowd will be looking at the stage with the river behind them.
Cool.
All of Bass's sponsors will be there. You know, they'll be activating their sponsorships with their tents and trailers. They'll have giveaways. They'll have swag. They'll have T-shirts, all of that paraphernalia. You'll have all the big boat brands, or the brands that are sponsors.
Ranger and Nitro.
They'll be there.
Skeeter will be there.
Toyota will be there.
I don't think we're allowed to say those names on Facebook Live from Bucks Island. I'm kidding.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, Skeeter will be there, period. That's it. That's the only one.
And then the folks will park the anglers' rigs over at the venue. And then the public can park at the venue as well. And there's a little path through the back that you can wander to get you. It's really easy. You won't have to park out on the street. But I could see the venue parking lot filling up from this. So it's something, to think about. You can park over, not in the Dollar General parking lot. Don't park there. They're trying to run their business and Farmers Furniture there. But, behind Burger 101 over there, there's parking. There'll be some golf carts that'll be doing some shuttling back and forth. But we're expecting a lot of people there. The blast-off will be at 5:40 a.m. I believe that's right. Not 6:40 because it's already done. It's 5:40 a.m. And if I'm wrong, it's 6:40 a.m., but I think it's 5:40 a.m.
Hey, if you show up at 5:40, you'll be there for the 6:40 launch.
That's right. So be early. I mean, because this is 99 boats, man. This is a beautiful, beautiful scenery. And then the weigh-ins are about 2:00, I believe, Central Time. 3. Okay.
They should be 3. That's what they ran all last week.
That's what I was thinking, but in the info sheet that I have, it says 2, but I think that's a typo. It should have been probably 2. I don't know, but you're going to see a lot more advertising. You're going to see a lot more information about this event in the next 2 weeks. But basically,
well, maybe if they're going at 5:40, they may go to 2:00. Okay. You may be right.
Okay, so then they'll come in and weigh in, and now on Saturday and Sunday, you heard Bruce mention, or the commercial, and Bruce mentioned the expo from noon until 5. We'll have an expo there. It'll have all the sponsors from the Bassmaster people. Also, we're bringing in local sponsors, food trucks, arts and crafts vendors, various kind of sales things. We've got. We're asking folks like Gad Rock and some other companies to come out and have some things there. We expect some things for the children to do. Center for Cultural Arts is going to have some things.
Let's not get Carrie paddleboarding over there for all the boats coming back.
Yeah, we don't want bass boat speed bumps out in the middle of the Coosa River.
That would be funny. Yeah.
But those guys, for those of you that are new to the sport of fishing, what you may not know is when these guys blast off, you're going to have boats that are going to be running down and upriver anywhere between 65 to 80 miles an hour. And
they're doing it for $100,000.
Yeah, and you hear a lot of people go, "Why does a fishing boat need to be that fast?" Well, here's the deal: every 30 seconds can be 2 casts. So if I can go from 71 to 72 miles an hour and I save myself a minute on a run, then legally they can't modify their engines or anything. But if I can save myself a minute, I may be able to put 2 to 4 more casts depending on what I'm doing. And that one extra cast could be
an 8-pound fish.
An 8-pound fish. It could be the fish that puts you from out of the cut to making a check for $10,000. And so they go as hard as they can to get to their water. They go as hard as they can between each spot, and then they go as hard as they can to get back on time, and they try to maximize every minute.
Because they get penalized if they're late as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I would encourage. Hopefully, we got a few folks that'll see this video watching now that aren't hardcore bass guys, and I certainly wasn't several years ago when I started at Bucks Island. I'm not necessarily a hardcore bass guy. Obviously, now I'm far more interested in the sport. But I mean, the level of respect. You talk about the expo. It's going to be a great time to come out with your kids. I mean, especially the way the weather's shaping up these days. I mean, and if you come on Sunday, and especially if it's remotely close on who's going to win, um, I mean, it's a fun thing to see, even if you don't really understand what's going on.
Right.
If you know, hey, I mean, there's a guy about to win 100 grand, and to see all of that, and if your kids do love fishing, or if you love fishing, they're just gonna. I mean, this is like being kids in a candy store,
Yeah,
or anglers in a fishing store.
And they've got the big video boards for you to be able to see the anglers on. When the first, like on the last day, you know, you're the first of 10 guys to come across by boat number, and your weight is the winner right now because you're the only weight, right? So you get to go sit in the hot seat.
Well, if you, yeah.
Yeah. And then how long do you get to sit in that hot seat? Because the next guy comes up, and okay, so he's got less than you. You're still in the hot seat. I mean, there's a lot of drama there, even though there's only 10 guys that come across the stage.
Yes.
When you're, it's a difference between 100,000. I don't know who knows what second place is. Nobody even cares.
It's $25,000.
Well, I do care now.
25,000.
I wouldn't mind being second place
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
But
second place is first loser. It's like kissing your sister.
Yeah. Well, moving on. So the biggest thing out of all this conversation, with you two guys sitting here in particular, I really want folks, if you don't understand the fishing sport, if you're not into that, you know, if you're just here in Etowah County, understanding this is a big deal. This is not just another fishing tournament that showed up. This is not just, hey, some guys getting together at a ramp. There's a lot that goes into making this, and this process started a long time ago. And I just want to acknowledge that there's a lot of work that's happened between the two guys sitting over there, and a lot of folks that work for Hugh and work with Hugh to make this stuff work.
And specifically, I would say to that is the City of Gadsden Parks and Recreation Department.
Oh, yeah, they're tireless.
I mean, you know, I think that sometimes I think people hate it when they see me come into the room because they're like, "Oh, Hugh's got another idea to do something."
and I got to take a lot of blame for some of that because I'm usually planting some of this stuff in his head.
And I'll say, "Hey, can you guys do?" And they're like, and they do it, and they do it, you know, gracefully, and they work hard. And it's like when we asked Bruce, what are some of the things, and he talked about community involvement, and that comes to me is when you've got the staff of the city, the Parks and Recreation, Coosa Landing, Julie and Jen, and all the folks that do the work. They come in there and they're there and they don't complain about it. I mean, it's just, it makes it so much easier because then the tournament director says, "Hugh, we had a great time. The ramp staff was great. You know, it worked out perfect. We had no delays. Everything was great." That makes a fishing organization say, that's a place we want to go back. And we got to have that type of cooperation, and we get it, and we're so thankful for that.
And because I've been a part of the tournament scene, you know, you're on the board of the Alabama Bass Trail. I was fortunate enough for 5 years to work with Kay and the Alabama Bass Trail, and I get to see all the different venues that would go on. And because at Bucks Island we have the service trailer, and we try to support the fishing community that we can when sponsors and events allowed. I'm fortunate enough to have personally on the real dirt behind the scenes level to have worked with Jen and with Julie, and they're two very committed, hard-working individuals. Julie will be exhausted after Sunday.
After Sunday.
I mean, she's
Wednesday.
Yes, I mean, and she will be there from dark 30 to after everybody else goes home, and then, you know, it's a labor of love for those people. Yes, it's their job, but they really care about this community, but also Coosa Landing and how it puts forward. So, you know, I already know I'll be able to give them a high five after the end of the thing. He'll be able to do the same thing. And it'll be a job well done because I've seen how they do it, and they're great at what they do. And Emily Harley, who is the communications director from Bass that helped us put together getting Bruce here, she's now confirmed the info sheet from Lisa Talmadge, the tournament manager. Takeoff is 5:40. Weigh-in is 2:00 local time.
It's good.
And then the FS1 broadcast on Saturday and Sunday will be 7 to 10 a.m. local. You guys will be able to follow Bassmaster Live on
Bassmaster.com.
Bassmaster.com. Tommy Sanders. I'm not sure if Zona's doing it that week or if it's a Davey Height week. But Ronnie Moore and Mike Sukan and that whole group that you see at every tournament. Tommy Sanders is he's a professional broadcaster. He's been around a long time. I've got being backstage with them. Someone says, "Hey, Tommy, I need a 30-second intro," and Tommy will, off the top of his head, snap one off in 29 seconds and go, "Was that good?" And you go, "Wow!" And it sounds like, they talk about Jim Nance on the Masters or whatever. I mean, he's that good, and he brings the rest of that group together. It's Neely Henry, Gadsden, the North Alabama, the Etowah County area is going to get a lot of exposure from true professionals on the water and off. And I can't, from me, I moved here in 2014 with my family. I met Hugh in 2011 when I came in for one of Kay Donaldson's media events. I called him when we were moving to town, and he said, "Let's get together." All of this stuff kind of started coming together because he's got such an open mind about supporting this area and such a heart for it, and wants to find new ways. For me to see personally an event of this stature coming to this town is like, I mean, I'd love to say it's an exclamation point, and it is, but to me it feels like a comma. That it's an ongoing program that you've committed to build to support this community, use the resources of Neely Henry and the stuff around us, and it's something that I'm, as a member of Gadsden, of the Gadsden community, as a resident here in Southside and this area, to me, I get a little choked up thinking about seeing an event like this come to town because.
Well, you get choked up from just the fact that I'm saying that, 5 years ago at lunch at Bubburritos or somewhere, I was like, "Can we ever get in a lead on Neely Henry?" For someone to go, "Hell yeah, why not?" And then, what about a classic? It's too small a lake. And then it's like, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not too small a lake. Well, what about a Central Open? Could we get an Open? How could we do that? It's 250
and
boats.
We've had a Toyota series here now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's been a lot of big events. I mean, do not underestimate the impact that something like Alabama Bass Trail brings to here when they're here for a one-day tournament, but their guys are going to practice for 3 or 4 days, and you see $300,000, $350,000, $400,000 of economic impact from that tournament. Now take this, like Bruce said, and we have a chance to see $3 to $6 million of economic impact to a city. And is there expense to it? Is there effort to it? Yes. But what other thing can we do right now as a community to get this much exposure with guaranteed return on the investment, but also the future exposure from, Fox Sports?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Without having a tornado come through here and hitting something that everybody wants to go, we're not going to see, we don't get that chance.
I think the last time we got national exposure was when somebody kayaked off Nakalula Falls and they spelled Gadsden wrong. So, we're working to improve these things.
Yes.
But from me, and this is a compliment to you, I didn't know what tourism directors were until I met you. And I came from California where, like I said, it's easy. They say Disneyland and they say Hollywood and people want to go.
So I'm hearing we need to open a Disneyland here in Etowah County.
All I know is if Waddington, New York, town of 1,000 people, can break a record for attendance at a Bassmaster Elite for a number of years before it gets broken, we ought to dang sure be able to do that here, especially because, look, tell me how many people in Etowah County don't fish in some way, shape, or form. I guarantee the number is less people don't fish than people that do fish, because don't you take your kid out on the back porch or on
everybody's
the dock?
Even with a bobber.
Right.
I've heard all this stuff with things that I've seen and some of the conversations about, oh my gosh, all these outside tournaments on Gunnersville, and what are they going to do for me? Every single one of these businesses, the gas stations, the hotels, the community investment into continuing to grow the infrastructure that we have here to support events like this, that all that stuff comes from having events like this.
Yeah, they do.
And when you have 100 guys and their families coming in here to spend a week, whether it's at a Airbnb, a campsite, a hotel room, whatever it is, they're investing into our community.
Mm-hmm.
They're eating food, they're buying groceries, they're buying gas, they're going to the tackle stores, and let alone the fans that come in. So while does it impact you directly? Does it maybe impact you for 4 days and not being able to fish the hole you want to fish? Maybe. But from a guy who makes a living in this business, who lives in this community, I'll give up 4 days to see a story on a place like Neely Henry and be able to watch what can blossom out of something like this.
And people will say, well, okay, so that's a nice event. Well, you don't have another one for maybe 2 years. But you know what? We had an event last week. There was a fishing tournament last week. There was a bicycle race at Nakalula Falls, mountain bike race a couple months ago. Hundreds and hundreds of people and their families came and raced. It's almost every weekend. The Nakalula Spring Trail Run is this weekend. People will come from outside the county. It's not just one event.
Barbarian Challenge coming up soon.
Coming up in a few. Be 8,000 people up there for that.
You have the art festival at Nakalula. You have the world's longest yard. All this stuff is all bringing
people to our area, and most importantly, new money that didn't exist in this county before they came. If you don't have that in your community will die. So we need brand new dollars.
Yeah.
From new people, and they come in and they don't use the fire department, they don't use the police department most of the time. They're not using the infrastructure, they're not killing our cities, facilities and things like that, but they're coming and dropping off their dollars. Every time the bed gets filled, the hotelier thinks, do I need another hotel, or do I need another maid? Do I need another staff person? The restaurants, we've got sports complexes. It seems like we don't have any, but we've got, so many that are filling up hotel rooms on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Stevie B's Pizza some Saturday afternoon. I mean,
Baron's Pizza.
Baron's.
I'm behind the times on some of this stuff, but I don't update the website, so we're okay. So thank you, Cheryl.
But here's the thing. All of that, there is no other resource in our area that delivers more tourism possibility than that river.
That's true.
And an event like this is the primary thing that's going to draw the attention of the rest of the country to see great town, great, good fishery.
I mean, there's a guarantee that at some point in the next 10 years minimum, somebody's going to travel here to catch a fish where they saw one of their heroes catch a fish next week. I mean, that's going to happen, whether it's the 15-year-old kid that watches it live now and lives in, Iowa or I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about happens with events like this. Is it thousands of people? But that's a pretty impactful thing to really, I don't know. Maybe I get a little choked up thinking about that, but that's a cool story. As you talk about stories, and that's what this kind of thing does is. It pulls people to go, oh, I want to go fish that. Certainly it helps us on the tackle side of, I want to buy the tackle that guy used. But in the bigger picture, the fact that that's going to happen, like somebody's going to travel here to fish here, because they saw John Cruz or they saw Brandon Polinick, fishing out in these spots, and they're fans of the sport. And for those that aren't big, bass fans, like, you don't have to get all the details of fishing, but I mean, you apply that to whatever you're interested in. There's a whole world out there in the fishing, and it's awesome to see this kind of thing coming. So,
and we've heard people talk about, Gadsden recently and things going on here, and the future, and we know that the future is bright as long as we want to make it bright and work to make it bright. find me a city in the southern United States, if you can. You maybe you can go to the whole United States, where you can put a pin at City Hall or downtown, and within 2.5 miles, you have the Coosa River and Nakalula Falls. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of events that are built by nature to take place naturally, and with a little help from us and from you and from everybody that lives here, to show off how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you golf, ride a bike, and fish, where else do you want to go? I mean,
well, and think about it. If you want to think about a hub for, let's say you want to do a fishing excursion, let's say.
Okay.
You could stay right here in Gadsden. You can fish Neely Henry. You're 45 minutes from Gunnersville. You're an hour and 15 minutes to Chickamauga. You're 30 minutes to Logan Martin. You're an hour to Lay Lake. 2 hours to, I mean, you could use Gadsden as a hub for a fishing excursion week with your boys, your girls, if you know you're one of those.
Yep.
You know, whatever it is, I'm saying is there's no other place that I want to call home anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know actually we're coming out of the crappie season, but every year since I've been at Bucks Island, we've had at least a handful of people that show up. I'm from Michigan. I'm from Minnesota. I come down here every year to go crappie fishing on Weiss and Neely. Yep. I mean, like, that's a thing. I mean, and obviously a ton of people don't get that and understand that, but that was kind of a interesting moment for me. I mean, no kidding. Actually, I think one of those guys came down and bought a boat from us this year on his trip down here. So that's we're blessed to be in this location. So.
Before we get too far, let's just remind everybody the events that are coming up over the next couple, 10 days or so. Bucks Island, please come interact with these guys. There'll probably be more of them show up than we could even let you all know, because they may just come over and pop over. But 9 to 4 seminars, raffle prizes. Tony and Mary and the family over there, they're really good about supporting the community, giving us the opportunity to do this kind of stuff, thanks to the Elite Series pros. And we're going to have other organizations pros there as well for taking the time to do it. But you can interact with those guys. You can talk to them about what they expect out of Neely Henry. Please understand they can't solicit any information from you. They can't hear a thing without having to go, oh, please stop talking. And they don't want to be rude. Just don't tell them, hey, I caught a 5-pounder yesterday over off that whatever. Not even the lure that you like, because if you've been on the lake, you could cause them problems. But interact with them, talk fishing.
Just don't get offended if they stick a hand in your face.
Yes. And then
they don't want to lose out on $100,000.
Obviously, feel free to say hi to them when they're getting off the water. When you see them at the gas stations, at the restaurants, feel free.
To clap really dang loud when they cross the stage with their bag of fish.
Please, Thursday through Sunday next week.
Turn out.
I mean, it's a spectacle. The only thing bigger than an elite event in my career is a classic event, is being in an arena at a classic, and
that's like the Super Bowl for fishing guys.
Yeah, Bassmaster Classic. There's other events, the Old Forest Wood Cup, the Red Crest, and there's other big events out there. But for Gadsden to be pulled and recognized as a place to have an Elite Series show out, because it's a big deal for this community, and it's going to be a neat story with some really, really, really great people that are there that I've been fortunate enough for the last 20 some odd years in my career to work around.
So we got the tournament, so 6th through the 9th. The expo will be going on the 8th and 9th, so Saturday and Sunday. Right. I think if you had to pick a day, probably Sunday to come see the final weigh-in.
Pick a day. Come all four.
Yeah. Come all four. Come all four. Yeah, I mean, what else you got going on, right?
Yeah, get a hotel room.
Even if you live in Southside, get a hotel room in downtown Gadsden.
You better get it quick.
What else have we got coming up? We talked about the Bavarian Challenge coming. What else you got coming from the tourism side? What kind of big stuff?
Well, now, you didn't tell me I was going to get to talk about any of that. So, Let's see, the Highway 132 yard sale. How about that?
Oh,
That rolls off your tongue. That's next Thursday through next week as well.
Nice.
So
Wow.
that's Highway 132 between 231 and 278 on Highway 132. Now I'm making kind of a little joke about that because I had a. Do I have a minute? Do I have 30 seconds? I'll tell this story.
Yeah.
I guess.
I
I
don't know
mean,
how- I don't know
people
what
will
our
listen
time
if they
frame
choose
is.
to listen. If not, it's the internet. They'll click on.
So like the second year, I was hired in 2009, and so I think in 2010, around this time, maybe 6 months into the job, and this nice lady calls me from Altoona, and she said, "Mr. Stump, I understand that you can help us promote our yard sale." And I was like, "What do you mean the Highway 132 yard sale?" And I was like, "Well, where's that?" Well, Altoona. I said, "Where's that?" And so did a little research, went had lunch, and I said, "Yeah, we'll be happy to see what we can do." And I called her back and a week or two later to tell her some ideas I had, and she wasn't there. She called me back. She goes, "I'm sorry, Hugh. We were on our trip to Gadsden today." And I said, "Trip to Gadsden? You mean you went to Gadsden?" "Well, no, we took our trip to Gadsden. We do about once a month for shopping and such." And I thought, "You're like 9 miles down the road. What is it like?" And it got me to thinking, it's like, even though we're the smallest geographic county, and it feels like to me, you can be anywhere in Etowah County within 5 minutes. That's why I'm late, folks, unfortunately, most of the time, because I still haven't got through my head that you can't be anywhere in
Yeah.
Etowah County in 5 minutes.
I go 10 to 15, but okay, if you got 5 minutes.
But they made a whole day of it once a month, where they loaded up the family and took a trip to Beverly. It was like, it was the most amazing thing. I thought it was funny, and I've been helping them with that yard sale, and I was so excited they're having that again because they did stop for a year. So Highway 132 yard sale next week.
Cool.
During,
Well,
during the Elite Series
Yeah,
event.
during the Elite Series.
I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of elite wives going to that yard sale.
No
all
doubt.
right. Well,
No
go
doubt.
yard
Go-
sailing, and then
Didn't come to the weigh-in.
or go to the blast
Blast
off
off.
at 5:40. Go yard sailing. Come back.
Oh, and there's also boat rides, demo boat, all 4 days by the manufacturer. Boat manufacturers will be there.
I'm
so
not sure that they're doing that this year.
Yeah, they are.
I,
Check with Emily.
I know it says though, but I also know that
Maybe not.
I also know that at least one of the manufacturers has said no.
Oh, okay. Well, that was one of my bullet points to talk about. So
There may be some.
maybe not.
Well, it's going to be fun. So, for those of you that are still hanging in with us live, wow, I appreciate it. It's remarkable. I hope some folks have gotten something out of this. Hopefully, a little more educated on the fishing side. Certainly, all of our anglers, the angling community, the fishing community that follow and are incredible customers at Bucks Island. I know you guys. A lot of this was probably stuff you already knew. But this is a big deal. And, from Bucks Island standpoint, anything we can do to help, obviously Fish Fest. I mean, be honest with you, we're running out of stuff to sell. So getting people in to buy stuff is, at this point, it's just, let's just have fun with the community.
Well, I happen to know that I have been making the folks up in the loft very, very busy the last several weeks.
Hey,
Yeah. We're slowly getting, so it's going to be fun. What you got?
Dano, you know this better than me, but if I'm correct from the elites that I've been to, access to the angler's boat is pretty open as far as when they're not using it. In other words, when they're docking and getting in and out, you can get up pretty close to their boats and take a look at what gear they're running.
They may
on
have
the docks,
They may, it just there's a little bit of limited space, obviously, at Coosa Landing. The takeoff dock will probably be right there in front of so you could walk up to the bank. You may not be able to go up to the docks. They'll certainly want the traffic lanes free, but when they're parked at the venue after the tournament,
right,
feel free to walk up and talk to them. These guys are very, very. If there's something super special secret that they don't want you to see, they're going to put it away.
Okay, I was going to say, because we've heard the word state of the art a lot over the last few months. These boats really are state of the art.
Oh, you won't believe. There's nobody that pushes the envelope on rigging more than National Professionals. I was watching the Lake Fork event on Fox Sports on Saturday while I was waking up to start digging in my yard again. And the amount of guys that have 3 fish finders, and you can't really call them fish finders anymore because there's so much more than that. But the amount of those guys that had 3 graphs on the bow of their boat just blew me away, because you've got so many. Each one has a different capacity, and some guys are actually turning away sponsorships from the electronics companies to buy so that they have all of the different tools that are available to them. And that is just the stuff that you'll see on these boats. If I'll give it to you an example, the way some of these boats are rigged, we would be looking at Bucks Island at retail price points of close to 90 plus, maybe even 100,000 on some of these, with the amount of graphs and electronics and accessories and batteries that they've got in them to run it. It's unreal. So, I mean, stop and think about this. When a group like this comes to town, you are looking at the Michael Jordans, the Derek Jeters, the Najee Harris. You're looking at that group of people that those manufacturers want their latest and greatest in their hands. And these are the guys that you're going to be able to see what might be on your boat in a year, because some of them have stuff that's not even available yet to the general public.
Well, guys, come on out, and this is going to be fun. I'm excited to see, and as Dana mentioned earlier, hopefully this is a comma event, and we get more stuff going on. Certainly, we've already had pretty good growth. I mean, the fishing industry as a whole is just, it's gaining a lot. We've added the kayaks in because there's a lot of growth there as well. So we need to get some big kayak tournaments going on here as well. So
Hobie coming in this year. Excuse me. Hobie will be bringing one of their big kayak series in, I think, in the fall. Kayaks is, of course, then there's a lot of local kayak tournaments that happen.
Oh yeah.
That guys are coming from Wetumpka and Sylacauga and, other parts, because they want to fish on the Coosa chain for kayak fishing.
They had 20 or 30 showed up out behind the mall a couple weeks ago. They'll do a 2 or 3 hour tournament on a Tuesday night, Thursday night, and 30 guys for a few hours putting in. And I mean, the cool thing about kayaks is you don't have to be at a massively big ramp to do that. So they just put in behind the mall, gets the mall, and
they don't even
fishing.
want to be at a ramp. They want to be somewhere where there's grass.
Yep. So yeah. So
all I know is I want to hear all those engines go home.
Yeah, that's you can't beat that.
I can't wait to hear that down with all the music and the pageantry. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for hanging in there. If you're watching this later, made it this far, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
So be sure, wherever you're seeing this, give us a like and a follow.
Should we do the Dash for Cash drawing now? We draw the random numbers and give out money. I do it everywhere. Come on.
We're doing that Saturday. So,
right.
another
Fish
shameless
Fest.
plug for Fish Fest. So we actually are doing a drawing, bunch of free stuff given away. So guys, we'll see you. Hope to see you down on the waterfront next week, and for sure this Saturday, 8 to 5, 9 to 4, whatever our time ends up being. We got a bunch of seminars.
Crappie, kayak, 2 bass seminars, meet and greets, food.
And
Hugh will be there. You can get his autograph too.
Yes,
and you should.
I will be there fishing for crappie.
He deserves autograph giving out. That's
all right. On that note, guys, we're going to go back to work. Well, I guess you're at work. We're sort of at work. But guys, y'all have a great afternoon, and we will see you